Okay, dudes, I guess we're kicking it off with our go-to manifold, the Edelbrock Performer RPM air gap. I kind of wanted to run this last to build up to it, but I guess we're gonna find out, like, this is our baseline. Can anything else even get close?
Well, I respect that manifold because it was pretty much the original intake of that kind of configuration.
The original RPM non-air gap was, yeah.
Well, you know what's cool about this manifold is every time I've tested this manifold on kind of anything, Ford, Chevy, Mopar, big block, small block, it works.
Yeah. So on this engine, I think that we're probably taxing the limits of what you really want to put a dual plane on, though, huh?
Well, I think it's a good base for testing the manifolds.
Because it's going to tax the airflow of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll run it to 65, 66, whatever we need to make sure that we're not leaving anything on the table as far as carryover.
Okay, Steve, once again, already has this thing tuned up, so we're going to fire it up here, get some temperature in it, and we'll have our baseline. So there's our very first test. I think pretty much as expected. We made 478 pound-feet of torque at 4,500, 507 horsepower at 6,400.
That's a nice curve.
Really? This bugs me a little bit.
Part of this might be because it's a 242, 248 camshaft.
Yeah,
it's going to be a little bit down at 3,000, but this isn't that unusual in my opinion.
I like looking at it from about peak torque, and the way it rolls over at the top at peak horsepower. Yeah, no indication of valve train distress or anything like that. It's just a nice curve.
The other thing that we're gonna do in this test is average the power between 3,500 and 6,800 RPM. Because if one manifold makes more of a difference down here and less up there, does some sort of a trade-off, it'll give you more of an idea of what it does throughout the power curve. So the average for the Edelbrock air gap is 447.4 pound-feet of torque and 436.9 horsepower. And I think it's as simple as that. We get to go put on a different intake.
Yeah, we've got it set up with a crank trigger and all that stuff, so it should make the swaps pretty easy. And that was the reason we did the crank trigger. Is because you know how you can have a distributor a half a degree off, 1 degree off, trying to replace it, and we just didn't want that to skew the data because that could change the whole thing by 3 or 4 or 5 numbers.
Right, and that's probably how tight these manifolds are going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be close.
With each other.
So we've got oil temp, water temp, air hat. You know, we've really tried to make it where there's not a lot of variables here.
All right, let's go pick what we're going to bolt on there next.
Okay. Next up is going to be our dart intake manifold. It's very similar to the Edelbrock we just tested, so I'm expecting pretty similar performance. I really don't know. That's what we're going to find out here on the dyno. I'm going to slap this on. Steve Brulè's got this gooped up. That's a BAM.
So this is a 9-inch Superflow air hat. Basically what it is a honeycomb screen to direct the air over a propeller. And then it basically has a little, I'm not gonna call it a sensor necessarily, but a little generator. And it creates voltage, and then that voltage is calibrated into CFM.
It's just great being able to see the actual air the engine's taking in. And
yeah, we're able to watch airflow. We can check it in cubic feet per minute. It's just more pieces to the puzzle that lets us look at more stuff and figure more things out.
One of the things you might notice about our particular setup on this engine is right here, the crank trigger, and the timing is taken care of here. This wheel has 4 flying magnets embedded in the wheel, and there's a magnetic pickup unit here that sends a signal to the ignition to trigger it. And since that's all self-contained here at the front of the engine, we're not going to disturb the timing whatsoever throughout our intake manifold changes.
Wow. I evaded that manual labor entirely.
Oh man, I hope you got everything else ready.
No, I was out there looking at other manifolds. I think this one's gonna be pretty good.
Hey, that was swapped over in record time.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, next up is gonna be that Dart SHP dual plane. I couldn't stare at it and decide if it was gonna be better or worse, so.
Manifolds are magic. You never know till you
never
run
know.
them.
Except for Dulcich, you can tell.
No, on this one I was stymied.
No? You were stumped?
Yeah,
okay.
Completely stymied. They were dead ringers, really, visually.
Yeah.